Hey guys, welcome back to class. This week's readings are about women in the workforce, which is like super interesting. So let's start with rose and thorns. My rose is that it's really nice out today. I was able to take a walk outside and get some fresh air, which is really nice. And then my thorn is that I can't believe that I'm almost done and I'm about to graduate soon, and I'm really just finished school like online. And also another thorn is that this is going to be my last class with you guys, like my last like recording, and I'm really going to miss teaching for this class, and I'm so sad that it had to end the way it did because I really loved having you guys as my students, and you guys are awesome. And yeah, let's get started on the readings. So the first reading was the second shift, working parents and the revolution at home. So this article talks about the idea of a second shift. So the second shift is basically when a woman, she comes home from work, she has a second shift, which she is required to clean the house, take care of the children, cook dinner and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like she's just working at her job, she's also working at home, and the work at home she's not getting paid for. And then it also talks about this leisure gap. The leisure gap is basically kind of this difference between how much free time a woman has at home versus how much free time a man has at home. Men have more time to sleep in the morning. They're spending more time watching TV, they're spending less time with their children compared to women who are getting an hour and a half less sleep than their husbands. They're not able to have that much free time for themselves, which sucks a lot. And then also this idea of speed up. And speed up is this idea that before, back in the day when women used to be just at home wives, they had the same 24 hours, and now that women are in the workforce, they have the same 24 hours but they have less time, so everything's sped up. Everything that they have to do, all the time that they have to break up for themselves and different responsibilities, now they have to speed everything up. And then I think the one thing that this article kind of talks about is the fact that the family dynamics are changed, from before the Industrial Revolution, when women used to be at home and working. Now women are in the workforce and they have a lot more responsibilities, yet they're still frowned upon if they're not keeping up the same home responsibilities as pre-Industrial Revolution, which doesn't make sense, and it puts this huge strain on women and mothers especially. And I think this one idea that this article also talks about is that women are seen as villains by their children, even though they're affected most by the second shift. So the article talks about how the dads are usually the ones who are seen to take their kids out on the fun things, while the moms are taking care of the house, the dad takes their kids to the park or to the zoo. And moms aren't really seen as that, and moms are also seen as more getting things done as quickly as possible. So it's also creates this idea that your mom isn't taking care of you the same way as your dad, but these different these different restraints are also placed upon women, so we have to think about that. The second article is why it's so difficult for minority women to find mentors. And this article is pretty good because it talks about a few problems that we have obviously in the workforce with women, and it's that there aren't enough minority women at the top to even be able to mentor. So that's a really big red flag, is that there's not enough representation of minority women at the top. So how are minority women supposed to even be able to help other people? And then minority women work so hard to get to the position that they're at if they're already at the top, that and they've had to deal and stick with certain male rules that are set, so they don't want to overstep their boundaries and lose their position that they already work so hard for. So a lot of women don't want to mentor because they don't want to overstep that boundary where it seems they think so highly of themselves. And it also talks about obviously why it's so important to have minority women mentors. I think one thing that we don't think about is the fact that, you know, if people have the same backgrounds, it's easier for you to give criticism and receive criticism from them. So one example that the reading gives is that, you know, if there's a white boss, a white male boss, and and a black employee is like, let's say, like not dressed appropriately for the job, a white boss might not be comfortable telling his black female employee that, you know, you might not be dressed appropriately, versus coming from a mentor who's also a black woman. She will probably be more comfortable giving that information to the employee than, you know, vice versa. And then also, a lot of women, they face sexual harassment from mentors. You know, a lot of men, they'll say that they want to mentor a woman, and then it's like, you know, they ask questions like, oh, how are you single, or, you know, like, how did you get to this position, blah blah blah. But like, that doesn't make women feel safe. It makes them like not really want to, you know, participate in something like that. So it's important to be able to have that like feeling of safety with your mentor, and that feeling that, like, you know, you're actually helping me to help me, not to try and get with me or anything like that. The next article is, this is how women are exploited in today's global workforce. So first of all, it talks about how like women jobs are devalued a lot. So like nannies, live at home nannies, they're not paid enough, they're exploited, they're overworked, and, you know, these jobs are the ones that require the most you know, skills with like interactions. So they're dealing with a lot more like mental stress, physical stress, and they're not getting paid the amount that they're putting in. Also, it talks about like the garment industry, and how like most of the garment industry is women workers, and how they're exploited. They're overworked in, you know, sweatshops, and a lot of our fast fashion comes from there, like Forever 21, H&M. Like, we need to make sure that like when we're buying things from like companies, that we're seeing that if they're, you know, treating their workers right, especially when companies like outsource like where they're getting their clothes made because it's cheaper. The reason why it's cheaper is because we're exploiting women and we're exploiting their work. And a lot of the times, women who are working in these positions, they have to deal with physical confinement in the workplace. So very small work places, not enough like space to breathe, very unsafe working conditions, and sometimes they're even physically or sexually abused by their bosses, which is very like common, because, you know, if someone's working for that cheap, you know, they obviously need the money. You know, no one wants to work in those type of conditions. And then it's not only the fact that she's a woman that she's getting sexually abused, but it's the fact that she needs money as well. So, you know, if you're going through something like that and you have like that financial like burden over you, it's really hard to leave a situation like that. So it's really sad. The next reading that we had is exposing the reality of pink collar workers. So pink collar jobs are jobs that are like dominated by women. And I think that we need to understand that 51% of women make up the workforce in general, and that women aren't paid as much as men. I think one surprising thing from this reading, or not even, it's not surprising obviously, because like, come on, but like the society that we lived in is like so messed up. But I didn't even think about this, but jobs that require tips, like waitressing, they're very racist when they choose like who they want to work for like the positions. You know, you have to look pretty, or you have to be a certain like ethnicity, like, you know, you have to be attractive, because it's like thought that, like, you know, the prettier you are, the more tips you're gonna make, the more money you're gonna make, which is obviously so racist and so messed up. And then on top of that, you know, tips, women like waitressing, like you get paid less than minimum wage, because like the tips are counted as like on top of that, and you're not even promised that you're gonna make that certain amount of tips. And then also this idea that women, like, men have the choice to not be able to finish their college, like get a college degree, because they have the choice to be able to join blue collar jobs um construction work and stuff like that, because they're seen as valid in those fields, compared to if a woman tried to join the jobs, they're placed under like certain stereotypes that they might not be able to do the job well, and then on top of that, like sexual harassment and all that. Also, like it just shows that like women have to, it's like the college degree is now dubbed as like the new high school degree for women, because women need to at least have a college degree to be competitive in the work field, which is really like wow. And then also the only like so like requiring the college degree, it also like helps women stay like above the poverty line, because if you don't have the if you don't have a college degree, then like you're obviously going to be given like lower jobs, or like women like are giving lower jobs and paid less because they don't have the same amount of education. The next reading was Why Millennial Women Need to Stop Breaking the Glass Ceiling. This was a really cool article and a different way to think about, the glass ceiling and like women in the workforce, because when we think about the glass ceiling, we're like, oh, like we're women, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna like break this glass ceiling. What we don't think about is, instead of breaking the glass ceiling that's been set upon us, why don't we break the structure itself? Because the structure itself was built after the Industrial Revolution, and women were in the workforce after men were, and obviously men already created that structure, and then women just like went into it. So women, we should think about how can we as women change the structure of the workforce. Why is that important? How have we changed things? And then I think some surprising findings from this reading was that men, like at this reading they took a survey about how men feel about women in the workplace, and most men thought that women were treated the same in the workplace. Men were also surveyed to say that they would leave their workplace if their women counterparts made 25% more than them, which is what happens to women every single day right now. So this means that like a man would be upset that if their women counterparts were getting paid less than them, but women are actually getting paid less than men like right now. And then also on top of that, only 23% of men think that there should be a push for gender equality in the workforce. I feel like obviously if you have a privilege, it's kind of hard to see it and question it, but this just shows how much privilege men have in the workforce, that they don't really even have to think about pushing for gender equality, or like they don't have to think about the fact that women go through so many more obstacles to get to a certain place, and then on top of that they're not given the same benefits as men because they're women. All right, that's it for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your semester. Obviously email me if you need anything. Me and Alyssa obviously still have office hours if you guys need to talk. We're on Wednesdays from 3 to 4. Yeah, good luck guys, and I can't wait to read your final papers, and thank you guys so much for being such an awesome class. I'm really gonna miss you guys. Good luck with everything, and bye.